Hey up everybody and welcome back. Right, well, what can I say? Let me think. Nothing much going on. We had our little ride last week, which I'm going to say this because I'm actually starting this before we had our ride. So I suppose it's another one of these time warp things. So I might have some video of our September the 11th ride, and I managed to get together about 8 4-strokes. There's people coming on other bikes as well. It's like an open day, it's not a trial. But I've got me on the Enfield, friend Chris Arnold, who you may have seen a couple of years ago in a video giving some tips. Really brilliant rider. He's going to ride the Triumph. I've got a couple of people coming on BSA 250s that I built, one on a Beza 250 that a friend of mine built, Dick Oliver's Ducati, hopefully Bob Slater on his Tribsa, so it should be good. Of course, usual thing, we've had a drought most of this year and it's rained nearly every day this week, coming up to the weekend when we're going to be riding, but we'll see what's what. So anyway, if that didn't confuse you, well, it confused me. So anyway, what are we going to do this week? Well, we got the swinging arm done last week. As I mentioned, there's a couple of things to do on it, which we won't do yet, like the chain tensioner and the prop stand, and also I've got to make a couple of little studs for where the suspension units are going to mount. But what we're going to do today is, or this week, is the box that it mounts in. So we're going to make it slightly differently to the one on the Otter. Obviously the sides don't need to come back to mount footrests on, they're going to be mounted on frame tubes like on the my Enfield. But what we are going to do is make it come down. I'll take this off and show you this closer. Come down to match up with the bottom engine plates. So we'll make that, we'll put the Argus bearings in the swinging arm, we'll measure that, we'll add the various dimensions for the sides and everything, and we will make up the pivot for it. That's being made out of 3/4 inch 4130 tube, 1/8 inch wall. What we're going to do on one end is just weld a piece of 1/8 inch on it, square, and then on that wall we'll have a stop so that when it's in it can't turn, and then that will be very thin on the side where the gearbox projection is, and then the other side will just have a nut on. Then we'll do the usual thing, top, bottom, sides, everything like that, and then we'll go from there. So other than that, I will mention one thing. I often get comments, people pointing things out, but what they're doing is they're getting ahead of the project. You know, I often get comments about things in the dry build. Oh, you haven't done so and so, and I'll say, well, no, we're just making sure that everything goes together. We're fabricating stuff, and then when we finally build it, we'll do those things. But also, I sometimes get comments that are, you know, what are you going to do about so and so? Well, when we get to that, you'll find out what I'm going to do about it. It's pointless me mentioning it now, when we're, you know, maybe weeks away, like things with the engine and stuff. I'm not even thinking about that yet because I haven't even got the frame built. So there you go. So just be patient. All will be revealed in the fullness of time. Okay, so as I say, nothing else to say. Let me bring you over and I'll show you what we're planning to do for the swinging arm mounting box. So I've started blocking this up to see what's what. For this sprocket, as I say, we're going to have a smaller one. I think 13 teeth was the smallest you could get for the Enfield sprocket, and I think they only do 531, so we're going to have to slim it down a little to take a 520 chain. This is an 11 tooth 520 sprocket, so it's going to be slightly bigger than that. So I don't know if you can see, but that is basically the same diameter as this inner circle here. So we're going to have the chain slightly taller than that, slightly lower than it there. Alright, so let's have a look, see. We know we're going to have a bigger sprocket on the back, almost certainly. So it's going to go something like that to that. About like that. And here it's going to go there to down there. So obviously there's a lot of space at the bottom. That is probably about where I'm going to put it. Okay. Yeah, let me do that. See, that gives the two, because don't forget, when we sit on the bike, the suspension will go down, right? Which, if we say the engine stays still instead of dropping, that means the back wheel is going to come up, right? So it will go higher. So what we need is, when it's at rest, we need it to clear that. We need just a little bit of clearance, so when it drops right down, I mean, as we've got it now, when we build it, this is going to be the absolutely lowest point at which the suspension is going to be. Or shall I say the least compression. There's going to be no compression on the suspension. So if we've got clearance there, then as soon as we sit on the bike and all of this drops down and the wheel's height stays the same, that'll give us more space. So I think I'm just going to leave it there. Don't forget the box is going to be bigger, but yeah, I've got a feeling that'll be fine. We can actually do some fine tuning, because the box's dimensions are going to be fixed anyway. It's just where it's going to be, so we can build this and fine tune it later. Now what I'm also going to do, as I say, is the sides are going to come down, so we're going to bolt to this. There's going to be a tube here, tube will come up there. So what we'll have is a bolt through however we have our tubing, either actually through the tubing, sleeved inside, or on a bracket. Probably for there, probably on a bracket actually. No, let me think. The tubing's 1 inch. So the tubing is going to be like that. Tubing's going to curve up. Now, this drops down on the outside of that, but I don't know, ½ inch. So then there's going to be a spacer. This is 1/8. It'll be 1/4 inch alloy when we do it, so it'll actually be slightly out here. So let's say that gives us a ½ inch spacer. It'll be a 3/8 spacer. Then there'll be a spacing piece in between the two plates, so that when this is all down, it'll all clamp together. So this plate will clamp to this tube and to this. But that's a nice handy hole, right? I can work to that hole, but obviously it's not exactly there. So what we're going to do is, the box is going to be square, and then it's going to tilt back slightly like that. I don't want to make it cute. I mean, I could make it that big, but that'd look a bit ungainly. So we'll have it just tilt back a little bit like that, and then that's a nice datum. I can keep using that hole for everything. Right, so what we're going to do now, I think the first thing we'll do is we'll make the pivot. I thought rather than going backwards and forwards, I should make this template first. So that's going to go on there like that. So this is going to be our box to hold that, and then that's going to come down like that. We could drill some holes in that. So I don't know if it needs to be that tall. The box on the Otter is 2 inches square. I've made this, I think, 2 1/4 inches square. And that's, the hole's going to be there. Alright, let's go and put the Argus bearings in this. Make that, and then I'll put a hole in this, a 3/4 inch hole, and we'll see how it looks. So that's the Argus bearings in. This is going to be the pivot. 3/4 inch, as I say, 1/8 inch wall. So what we're going to do is we're going to thread one end of this. The other end is going to have a square plate welded to it. Doesn't that, well, it only has to be as big really as a nut. But it's going to be square so that when that goes through, see, this is the gearbox side, it'll go up against that plate of the box, and that will have a stop on it here. So it's only going to stick out this side 1/8. And then when we put the nut on the other end, it can't move, so we can tighten it up. Now, as you'll notice, the inside of the bearing isn't 3/4. So what we're going to do, just like with the B50, which had needle bearings in, they didn't run on the pivot. They ran on steel bushes. So we're going to make up some steel bushes to go in there, and then we'll have to make up a little spacing piece to keep them the right distance apart, so that well, coming from this end, when that gets pushed in, it'll go through them all. Alright, so we're going to measure the OD of this, the ID of that, and then make up a couple of pieces. I mean, it's so short I could make up one piece, but should I just do that? Because if I, you know what I might do? I might make up one piece, and then we'll put it in the mill, and we'll mill some slots in it, so that where the bearings are, it's solid, but here it'll have some slots in. Let me make some measurements and see what sort of stock I've got, and then we'll do that. These, by the way, run dry, so they've almost got, you can say, thrust washers built into them. So these will actually go up against the sides of the box, and my friend Dick has had them in his Ducati for years, and they're still perfect. Right, so I made this in one piece in the end, and I didn't put slots in. What I've done is I've wasted it. I've made it thinner in the middle. So that goes in there. See, and that makes it easy to put in because you're not pushing it the thickness all the way through. It's about, I don't know, 5 or 6, maybe 10 thou sticking out each end, so that when it clamps up on that piece, it's not clamping on these. And then this inside part, to make sure there was no play in it, I didn't drill it 3/4. Actually I used 17mm, and then I reamed it. So there, now there's no play. So there's that already. So the next thing we've got to do is, as I say, we've got to get this to the right length, weld our piece on this end, and thread this end. So first of all, we're going to go and put this on the frame, because while I was doing that, I sort of cut these out, and while they were cooling I started the machining and so on. So there's the plate. Actually it's heavy. I thought it was 1/8, but it's not. Well, it's not quite 3/16, but it's a little bit more. So where's it going to go? Yeah, that way. So what we're going to go and do is put this back on, and then, excuse me, we'll get the template again, and we'll mark on where that's going to be, and we'll mark on where that 3/8 hole is going to be on the bottom as well. Just in case you were thinking, oh, it's going to turn on that, the swinging arm, it's not. as I say, these stick out, so this is going to be close fit into the two sides, and the sides will clamp on that bit. When this is tightened up, they'll clamp on that, so this will move on that centerpiece. So don't worry about that. Right, so I'm going to mark up this hole first, and then I'll put the tube in, and I can be exactly right with that. So what I've done is I've marked a line on the top, because I can't see it, see? I've marked the line on the top, the centre there, and I've marked the line through the centre there. I've done this before. So then you put that on there, and I can see this line here, see? And I can see that line there. So now all I've got to do is make those two cross, and that is going to be the centre. So let me go and do that. Right then, so who's an idiot? I've just cut a 1.5 inch hole. Should be 3/4 inch hole. Not the size of the tube. At least I got it right. I might as well use that. Can't believe that. As soon as I cut it, I looked at it and I thought, that's a big hole. And I thought, yes, you dummy. You didn't want it 1.5 inches. You wanted it 3/4. So, let me make up another one of these. So let me go and cut another cardboard template with these holes in. You know, my work would go a lot quicker if I did it right the first time. Okay, so now we've got a 3/4 inch hole there. Goes to there. Now I'm on fingers and thumbs. Come on. And that goes through that hole there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is mark that out on the steel I've cut, and then the two pieces of steel I'll tack weld together 2 or 3 places so that when I drill these holes they're exactly the same on both sides. So let me go and do that. So there's our 2 side pieces, spot welded together and marked for our 3/4 inch and our 3/8 hole. So what I'm going to do is do the 3/8 one first, and then while the 3/8 drills in there, I'll use that to basically drill a pilot hole for the 3/4. Okay, I'll just drill one hole. You've seen me drilling holes before. Much to that, a friend of mine, I mean it's cutting, but a friend of mine who sharpens all sorts of tools. Sharpened that for me. Oh, there we go. Alright. So as I say, we'll do the 3/8 hole. I'm going to drill this one 3/8 and then run a 3/4 one through it. So let me do that. Right, so there they are on. Miracles, the holes all line up. The reason I've pulled you back so much is that's 1.5 inches wide. So that's how wide the tube is. So I think I'm going to cut them to a curve, which will give me more there. And I've cut this 7 inches to there. That should be slightly less than 7 inches. that is going to go on there like thusly. I'd have to have a little look at that. I don't think that is quite vertical, but so it's looking good. Yeah, we'll just cut them round. And so now we need to make top piece, back piece, and an underneath piece. I'm thinking what I might do, see the way this is now, because this is going to be bolted to that and welded to the frame and everything, and as I say, this is nearly 3/16. That is all going to be rigid. So to box it in, 1/8 is going to be ample. An 1/8, I don't know if it'll fit in to do both bends, but I might try and make that out of one piece. Put it in the brake press, or the press brake, or whatever the correct term is, and let's see, make like the equivalent of a channel if it was laid in its back. But first of all, so that I can hold all this together and know exactly what the lengths are going to be, we're going to cut this, thread it, put the piece on the end, and then I can clamp them up. Right, well, back to this. It's Tuesday. Had our ride day. After basically a summer of drought, it poured down the night before, so my clay hillside was a little slippery in places, and it rained virtually all day. Fortunately, it was just a very fine rain, and all of my sections are in the woods, which are still, the trees are still well leaved, so it wasn't bad. We actually had a great turnout. We had 28 riders, and I think a couple of people took video. I honestly didn't get a chance to, because for once I was riding, as it wasn't a trial, and I wasn't sort of clerk of the course. But anyway, I've got some bits to show you. So, here we are. Now then, I've just found a couple of things which, God, my beard's itchy today. First thing I found out is, if I move the engine enough to get the chain line straight without doing anything here where the sprocket is mounted now, it's up against the gearbox, the swinging arm. So I've had to move it back. I've put this on, but it's nothing too bad. I've just got to mount the sprocket on the inside of this, and I think what I'm going to do is use this as the spacer. I'll turn the teeth off, because the sprocket, as I say, is going to be a bit bigger than that, and we'll mount the sprocket about there. So that way I just have to order a sprocket with the right sized hole. Now we want to register for it, don't we? We still need to always have a register. I'll think of something around that. Anyway, I'm planning to put it on the inside of there. Although if it's bolted tight to that, that's the register, isn't it? Yeah. Alright, anyway, we'll get to that. So that's one thing I noticed. Second thing is right up against the inside here, but I think because of the way all this gearbox extension curves, and that's 1.5 inches, which is what the tube is going to be. As you can see, I can move this a bit. So basically on the other side, I'll do it this side so it matches up. But what I'm going to do is put a slight curve there to give us more of that. You see the top part will only come to there. And here I can take a bit off the back as well, and we'll be fine. It's not touching now, but that'll just give us the little bit extra space we want. But the big thing is, you'll notice, well, I don't know if you can at that angle, this is right where the plate is. Now it's not a problem on the top, but of course I wanted the plate to go down there, so it can't, because the chain, it's right where the chain is going to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut these off there, and as for the outer, just make a plain box. Then these pieces, 2 pieces, are going to go inside the alloy mounting plates, and we'll weld in a distance piece so they just slot down into those, and then they will weld to the bottom piece, cross piece of the box. So it'll almost be like the way the auto was, the tube went all the way down to the bottom. You remember the box is sort of mounted on the outer part of the tube. So it's basically going to be the same, only instead of the tube going through, the tube will go to there, and then this thing will carry on underneath. So it'll still all bolt up exactly the way I wanted it. So we come to the point now where really we need, oh, one other thing I found. Right. That is just slightly too long. It's up against it there. And it's basically the amount that sticks out. So what I'm going to do is put it back in the lathe. Fortunately it'll fit even with the bit on the other side. I'll turn that back a bit, and I'll slim down this nut as well. Actually, we could put a thin lock washer behind it, so that's not a problem. But what I've got to do now, let me just walk around the other side of you, is we're getting to the point where we're coming down to, if you like, relational measurements between swinging arm and the engine and so on. So I don't want any slop in anything, and can you hear that? Front and back wheel bearings are shot. So I've got all new wheel bearings. So what I'm going to do is put new wheel bearings in and then put this back together. Get that all right. We decide where it want to be, then we bolt the chain case on, and we use this long face with a long straight edge, and I can measure to the wheel rim. And when the measurements are the same both ends, it means the engine via the chain case is exactly parallel with the line of the wheel. So I want to get all those done, and then we'll clamp things down so that nothing can move, and then we can start doing things like getting this fitted in, make the box, get that fitted in and bolted in. I'm going to make the engine plates up, because by that time I'll be wanting to swivel, move the engine around and things to get everything lined up, and we can start making up the frame. So first of all, let me just pop some wheel bearings in. Right, I've done the wheel bearings and I've put both wheels back in vertical, and I started working on this. Now I'm going from this side one because this is the only one that's got to be sort of finagled to fit in. So you can see here I've cut this part off. I've shaped it a little bit, so that's really as far back as I can go. The wheel spindle's about the middle of its adjustment, and it's hang on. Right now it's on, I would say, 52 1/4 wheelbase. Okay, so I'm going to cut this one. Hang on. Yeah, you can see that. I'm going to cut this one to match that one, and then we'll just make a box up. The top piece, that's basically 1.5 inches there. I'm going to widen this out slightly at the back where I've got lots of space, because as you see I've curved that to give myself plenty of room. I make sure it'll go up and down, so I'll curve this. I'll fit this piece. Whoops, no, that's not it. A little bit of cardboard's disappeared now. There it is. So that'll go on there, but what I'm going to do, because that's only 1.5 inches, is make it come back a little bit there where I've got plenty of space, so that when the tube drops onto it I don't have the edge of the tube there. I can nicely go right round it with the bronze. The bottom will just be square. Now, another one of those little mysteries. Let me move you. Everything is, I think, where it was before, but now I can put the chain case on. nothing catches. All very odd indeed. Okay, so let me cut this one and then we'll actually make the box. Right? It's where are we? Yeah, you can I get a bit more. It's standing on the bottom here. I've left one to have it standing there, but I've got some blocks that this will sit on. Oh, let me show you something else. 0.00. Very good. Alright, let me do a bit of cutting and shaping. So, usual thing. Cardboard template. Piece of plate. So I've got this bolted in there tightly, and that's 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Right, everything's okay. So, we will use a little square to get this on here exactly correctly. Third hand, where are you? There I am. That to hold that on there. I'll tack this front and back each end. Make sure that's on right. Yep, I want the curve to be at the back. So everything is good. Actually, I might grind a little bit more off that so that I get good penetration right into that. I don't want that flush so that I'm just trying to weld into it. What you want is a good, the equivalent of V-ing it, so that I'm really welding into the end of this and into the end of this. So let me just take a little bit more off, and then I'll tack that, and then I'll bring you back. Right, so there's the top tacked on. And there's the bottom tacked on. And I must be getting old, because there was a reason why I did the bottom like that and not curved at the top like that. I know that's so that the tube will go on, so that I have enough space to bronze all the way around. Anyway, it'll come to me. So let me put this in and we'll see how it is. Right, so there it is in with our top and our bottom. So now it's resting on the post, on the blocks. Still nicely, are we? Yep, 0, 0, 0, 0. And actually I can move this, but it's 0 that way as well. Hang on. In fact, I'll move you so you know that I haven't changed things. There it is. So it's 0 there as well. Right, and let me get, hang on. Right, let me show you this. That is going to be, you know, about there to there. So that's going to be, actually we might need to make that a little lower. We need to drop that down a little bit. And from there, oh, way down to there. I checked at lunchtime. It's a 13 tooth. That is the smallest I can get for there. And as I say, this one is a 12 520. So 13 tooth is just to say. Going to put the chain on the outside of this inner piece that's turned in there. So yeah, maybe I'll drop that slightly. I've got a length of chain. Hang on again. You know what? I think this is only just going to work. That's on where it was going to be on the sprocket there, but it's going to have a bigger sprocket I'll have to make sure it does, I think, because if I put that about where it's going to be on that sprocket, this is on the outside, it's actually going to be there, right? See, this thing isn't neither far enough out nor far enough in, but it's going to be about there. So if need be, I'll put a bit of rubbing strip on, because don't forget, once all the weight goes on, this will lift up. So I think that will just, if need be, I can make a little extension for this with a rubbing strip on it so that it stays up like that. And the bottom, that's alright, because that can come up to there before it touches, and that's about 6 inches of movement down here, which is more than we have suspension movement. And as I say, it's a bigger chain, a bigger sprocket, it's going to be down here, but by gum, that is close. I mean, the only way around this is, instead of getting the smaller sprocket, get a bigger sprocket there, use a bigger sprocket on the back, which is, you know, not really what we want to do. Wow. Yeah, only bleeding well just. Ha! Alright, well, I'll take this back off, make up the back, which is only going to be out of lighter material just to stop it, to make it a box so that it won't jiggle backwards and forwards, which of course it won't do with this big, as you know, there's an 1.5 inch piece in there. Okay, actually knocking off time. So tomorrow morning we'll come out, finish that box up, and then we're going to have to sort, I might have to make up a little dummy sprocket to put this chain on to see where the chain's going to go. But that is for another day. Right, well, so I've made the box, all done. Put a window in the back because it suddenly struck me that would be a real place for mud and everything to pack in, so that way I can wash it out. And I've also made the engine plates here. So let's lost the thing. Oh, also, you know, I couldn't understand why I didn't have any more of those rocker box things, because I know that when we did the other Enfield and I was going through the stuff, I had two, what I felt were two engines, and I was most pleased to find I had 4 of those rocker boxes, 4 of those rocker blocks. So I thought to myself, great. 2 engines, 4 rocker boxes, and I found out they were all either exhaust or inlet, I can't remember. But anyway, I didn't seem to have them anymore, so I didn't know what was going on. And then I was looking for something else, and I found 2 more boxes of Enfield bullet bits. I put that on upside down. So when I was rummaging around in there to see what there was, of course I found a couple of things that I've just bought. So I've got more things than I need. But I also found 14 tooth sprocket. Now the sprocket is worn. Excuse me talking to you while you can't see me, but I'm putting this thing up. I thought I'd utilise the time. Yes, it's too worn to use, but of course it is the right diameter, so we can see what we can see as far as the chain line goes. Come on, go in there. There we go. I was terrified when I was welding all this up that when I'd finished with it, it was going to be completely distorted, because there was a lot of welding. Alright. Now then. Let's get ourselves sorted here. I took the engine off because I had to unscrew those things from here. I thought I'd put it back exactly where it was, but maybe not. Alright, so there's that on there, that on there. So the next thing I've got to do is, I know the wheels and everything are right. I have got to, let me make sure that this is, yeah, it's still reading 000. So that's all good. So the next thing I'm going to do is get this engine absolutely square. What I've also done, you can see, is taking the head off. I'm going to use that to make sure it's level. Because there's a couple of sort of machinedy surfaces here, but I don't trust them. Whereas the cylinder head, the top of the cylinder barrel is going to be perfectly horizontal to the engine being perpendicular. So we'll get that all sorted out, and then when I've got it level and everything right, I'm going to screw some bits of wood on so that it can't move while we're doing all the other stuff. So let me start getting that organised. Right, I think I'm about set here. As you can see, across the top of the barrel, we're reading exactly 0. And there, can you see that? Anyway, it's reading 0.00 again, so that's bit's all right. Let me move you around. Got a nice straight edge. This is actually sort of T-shaped, well, L-shaped, so it's dead straight. So if I put the sprocket on the inside of that one, that's spot on with the outer edge of that sprocket there, so that would be the outer edge of that one. So our chain line is good. Then we are reading, hang on, every time I was just getting that level, this was dead right. What are we reading now? 3 7/8 there. Yeah, 3 3/4 there. So I've moved the engine, getting it level, I've moved it. Let me fiddle with that. Right, still reading level across the top of the cylinder. Four and a 16th. Four and a 16th. Right, so rear wheels vertical, swinging arms horizontal at this end. Engine's vertical, and the line of the engine is exactly parallel with the line of the wheels. So I'm going to make some marks first, well, things like that, and then I'm going to get some bits of wood that I can screw down so that it can't move. So I cut the two sort of legs to shape. Should need shaping a little bit more, but that's nothing. And I've bronzed them onto the bottom of there. So Everything lined up. Look, I can actually turn the bolt. I've slipped a piece of tube in, which I'm now going to bronze in here and here, so that when this is all together you can tighten it up and it won't pull that in at all. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a piece to go inside here, I think sort of centre line, you'll see it, to take out any chance of these moving like that. And because really all I need is corners, I'll cut it out, and then I'll maybe just put a big hole in the centre of it, so we'll lose a little bit of weight. I was thinking of putting a hole in here, but I don't think I'll bother. I'm not trying to shave every ounce off. Alright, so let me bronze these in, and then I'll go and cut a piece of plate to go in the centre, and that'll make that all completely rigid. And as I say, let's have a look here. What's going to happen is, there by the way are a couple of the bits of wood that I screwed on to stop the engine moving, and it's still right on its marks that I drew. I was saying, oh yeah, the tube there'll be a bolt through right through here with just an alloy spacer in between again to stop it squishing up, although actually it's right on the engine there. So the tube will come along here, be bolted at the end, come to here, and then it's going to go up. And actually we're going to have to finagle it. It's going to have to come out at an angle, because I've just been looking at this. Part of our problem, I've just realised, is that this is so close to here. Because I'm making up that length of the oil tank, this is shuffled up. So for instance, I think this is 4 inches, and I looked on the BSA for instance, and it's 6 inches. So that's what's causing me a little bit of trouble with the clearance for the chain. The chain of course gets wider, so with me bringing this in, I'm getting into a narrower point, so I might have to make like a rubbing thing to go on here, because it's basically, as I say, it's neither short enough for the chain to run in here, nor long enough for the chain to run on top of it. So I'm going to have to put something, or there's a likelihood the chain will catch on these edges, but that's a long way off. So let me get this finished, and then I've got to make up the 2 mounting studs for the suspension units on the swinging arm, and then that'll be it. So there that is. I've got a little bit more bronzing to do there, but I'm running out of time, and I wanted you to see this finished. I can bronze this up Sunday, something like that. I also have to put, hold on a second, I had to move you around there. I also have to weld a little stop on here for when I'm tightening that. So I just got to put a little bit of plate there, or I might just, I don't know, I suppose I could have drilled it, put an Allen bolt in, but I've got to put a stop there. So let me put this on and make sure the bolt still goes through. So there that is back on, and the bolt is still going through all right, so nothing deformed. I did slip up slightly actually. Yeah. When I was getting these ready to bronze on, I let this move, so that is now not completely flat. And when I say flat, it's flat. It's not level. It's 1 1/4 degrees out, but that's not a problem. Just means that when the tube comes down to here, it won't have a square end. Alright, so I think I'll make the studs to go in there, and then that will definitely be it for this week. Right, well, I have a friend that told me that 70 was when you really start to go to pot, or certainly you notice you're getting old, and he's right. How many mistakes I've made on this thing so far? That's a 3/8 hole, because I was thinking that a 3/8 nut goes on there, which it does, but I want it to be 1/2 inch for the actual
rear suspension unit to go on. So then I thought, well, actually, coming from the UK, they're probably 12mm, I think. So I've made, I've got to make another one of these. So this is 3/8 to put the nut on. That part there is 12mm for the actual eye of the rear suspension unit, and then this 1/4 inch here is 1/2 inch. So I'll have to drill that out to 1/2 inch. Then that goes inside. It's got this shoulder on to get it up. Bolt it in, put a spacer on and bolt it up tight, and then bronze it round the other side. I don't know what I was thinking of. I was actually turning one down and I thought, 3/8 of an inch, that's not very strong for that to come. So I went back and checked the otter, and sure enough, I'd made this 1/2 inch. Well, as I say, in fact, I made them 1/2 inch, and when the RockShox came, I think I had to drill out the eyes because they were 12mm. So as I say, I've made this 12mm. I've made that part 1/2 inch because I've got a 1/2 inch drill, and that'll be nice and tight in there, and then we'll do it up. So no, I haven't got time to make the other one, and because I've got to take the swinging arm off to bronze. So anyway, more annoyance. All right, so that's it for this week. Hopefully for next week, I'm going to have some video for you from the open day here, because I think I mentioned I was riding and stuff. I didn't get a chance to take any, but one of the riders' wives said she would take some, so I've got to chase her up, see if I can get her video files, and then I'll show them to you. So in the meantime, that's it. Till next week, you stay safe and enjoy yourselves.